The sky burned in layers, not flames, no, it was worse than fire. The clouds themselves fractured, folding into each other like torn metal under pressure, glowing violet and copper as the shuttle screamed its final protest. The sound wasn't loud anymore. Sound had become meaningless. Alarms blurred into a single, dull pulse, like a dying heart that no longer cared whether it beat again. The man inside the cockpit had stopped screaming minutes ago. Commander Elias Wren floated half-conscious in his harness, blood drifting from a cut above his eyebrow, forming small red spheres that trembled with every violent rotation of the craft. His hands were still on the controls, not because they worked, but because letting go felt like surrender. The nav screen flickered one last time. Unregistered biosphere. Gravity variant. Signal lost. Then the world turned sideways. Impact came not as a crash, but as an erasure. Memory fractured. Pain arrived late, distant, echoing through nerves that refused to acknowledge survival. The shuttle plowed through something soft, vegetation the size of buildings, before slamming into the ground with a force that folded alloy like wet paper. When consciousness returned, it did so slowly, reluctantly. Elias awoke to silence, so complete it felt artificial. No wind, no birds, no hum of machinery, just the sound of his own breathing, ragged, shallow, and the slow creak of cooling metal. He lay pinned at an angle, one leg numb, the other screaming with pain. The cockpit canopy was gone, torn away during descent. Above him stretched an alien sky, pale gold, veined with enormous drifting shapes that might have been clouds or something alive. He tasted iron. The air was breathable. That realization arrived with quiet terror. Uncatalogued worlds weren't supposed to be kind. He unlatched the harness with shaking fingers and collapsed onto the cracked earth. The ground was warm, faintly pulsing beneath his palm, as if the planet itself possessed circulation. Massive plant structures rose around the wreckage, towering stalks and broad-leafed canopies, their surfaces textured like skin rather than bark. Scale hit him then. Everything was too large. Each fallen leaf was longer than the shuttle's wing. Each footprint-shaped depression in the soil, noticed too late, was the size of a cargo bay. Elias dragged himself upright, pain anchoring him to reality. His suit diagnostics flickered across his visor. Fractured rib, internal bruising, dehydration already setting in, rescue probability, statistically irrelevant. He laughed once. It sounded wrong in the quiet. "So this is how it ends," he murmured. Not with glory, not with witnesses, just a man and a planet that didn't know his name. The first anomaly came as vibration. Not seismic, rhythmic, footsteps. The ground trembled gently at first, then with growing certainty. Each step arrived seconds apart, measured, deliberate. Something was moving through the forest. Something enormous. Elias froze. Survival training screamed at him to hide, but there was nowhere to go. The vegetation parted ahead with a sound like fabric, tearing slowly, respectfully, as if the forest itself made room. Then she emerged. She was humanoid, unmistakably so. 2 arms, 2 legs, upright posture. But she stood nearly 4 stories tall, her proportions elongated, her skin a muted slate blue that caught the light like polished stone. Her eyes, too large, too luminous, scanned the wreckage with unsettling intelligence. She inhaled. Elias felt it like pressure. Her pupils dilated. Another figure appeared behind her, then another, all towering, all watching. They did not rush him. That was the worst part. They knelt. The ground shook as several of them lowered themselves, faces coming closer, still meters away, yet close enough for Elias to see fine details. Faint scars, bioluminescent markings along their necks, expressions that were not hunger in the human sense, but interest. Assessment. One spoke. The sound vibrated through his bones rather than his ears, a layered resonance that bypassed language and settled directly into meaning. Small traveler. Elias swallowed, his voice cracked. I'm not food. A pause. Another presence joined the mental pressure, curious rather than hostile. All travelers are. Days blurred into a procession of survival under observation. They did not cage him. They did not restrain him. Instead, they escorted him, carefully, across landscapes that defied human scale. Plains where grass brushed his shoulders but reached their knees. Rivers he could swim, they stepped over. Structures appeared in the distance. Cyclopean stone forms, grown rather than built, spiraling upward like frozen waves. He learned they called themselves the Vareth. They were not predators by instinct, but by necessity. Their world was ancient, overgrown, and rich in biomass, but poor in diversity. Sentient life was rare, and their biology demanded something unusual. Neurological complexity. Consciousness itself was nourishment, not consumed through violence, but through integration, a merging of thought patterns that sustained them. They had been starving. Elias discovered this not through threat, but conversation. A chamber deep within one of their structures held echoes of others like him. Human artifacts rested carefully preserved. Helmets, datapads, fragments of ships, holographic logs flickered to life at his touch. Faces gaunt, voices trembling, each recounting variations of the same truth. No one escaped unchanged. One log ended with quiet acceptance. They don't eat bodies, the man whispered. They eat who you are. The Vareth did not deny it. They explained patiently, philosophically, as one might explain death to a child. To feed was not to destroy, but to share. Those who surrendered did not vanish. They expanded. Their memories became part of something larger. Their loneliness ended. Elias argued, fought, raged. What was humanity without individuality? What was survival without self? A Vareth elder listened, her vast form folded elegantly within the chamber, eyes reflecting his image like a fragile artifact. Your species fears dissolution, she said gently. Yet you die alone. The choice came when his body began to fail. Infection, damage beyond their ability, or willingness to heal conventionally. He could persist days, maybe weeks, or he could surrender. The process was not violent. It was intimate in a way that terrified him more than pain. As neural contact began, Elias felt memories unfold. Not stripped away, but layered. His childhood on a dying earth. His first command. The weight of every loss. The ache of isolation among the stars. The Vareth absorbed not just information, but feeling. In return, they offered perspective older than humanity. Civilizations risen and fallen, worlds consumed by time. The understanding that survival was not always about remaining unchanged. When it ended, Elias still existed. But he was more. He stood, taller now. Perception widened, senses stretched across electromagnetic spectrums he had never known. He could feel the planet breathe, feel the Vareth as extensions of shared thought. A signal arrived days later, human, faint, desperate. A ship searching for a lost commander. Elias watched the stars with new eyes, feeling the pull of two truths within him. He could answer, or he could stay, and ensure humanity was never alone again. The sky burned softly above the alien world. And for the first time since the crash, Elias Wren did not feel afraid.